Hey, what's up? Welcome to my office. Would you like the grand tour? Here we go. There it is. I'm writing you. I've been writing for the last 20 years, man. I'm talking to you. I'm coming at you live from a bathroom stall in a halfway house in Northwest Florida. I got here by serving 20 years in the Florida Department of Corrections and the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and now I'm on the last leg of a very long journey home. And luckily, most of the people that I love are still alive and out there, and I can't wait to reconnect and get with them. In fact, I've already started the reconnection process. But I'm not here to talk about that today. I'm here to talk about the books. Many of you know me as Malcolm Ivy. Malcolm Ivy is a pseudonym, it's a nom de plume. I assumed it in 2011 when I began writing my first book. So many of you read those books and assumed that that's my name, or maybe you know my real name, which is Chris Collins. And that's what my family calls me, Uncle Chris mostly. That's who I am, that's my real identity, Uncle Chris. And then if you've done time with me, you probably know me as CC. But I'm here to talk about these books today because these books are my kids. I don't have any kids. I've spent 30 years in institutions and jails, so I kind of miss that. But I love the children in my life, and there's a lot of them. The children of my nieces and nephews, my girls' kids. And so I'm blessed to have a lot of kids in my life. But my kids are my books, and I began writing the first one in 2011. It was called Consider the Dragonfly. I just kind of got sick and disgusted of just the negativity of the yard. The drugs, the gangs, the violence, the abusive guards, all that stuff. So I decided to sequester myself to my bunk and began writing a novel. I had read, at that point, when you're in prison, you read, especially, I was doing time before phones came out or tablets or any of that stuff. So, we were tearing up libraries. It was the only thing to do pretty much, especially because you were spending weeks on lockdown. So all there was to do. So, we're going through all the Stephen Kings and Sidney Sheldons and, all of these great writers, man. But yeah, so in 2011, I decided that I was going to try my hand at writing a novel because it's pretty much the only thing I can make or build in prison. And I wanted to do something with my life similar to Izzy. And On the Shoulders of Giants, I wanted an identity other than failure, loser, career criminal, so I built this Malcolm Ivy thing. But yeah, when Consider the Dragonfly came out, I expected the world to just bow down. And that ain't what happened. I got some nice pats on this bald head by some aunts and some relatives, and my homeboys in prison thought it was really good. But then it was time to write the next one. And that's what I did, man. I got started on with Arms Unbound, which kind of explores the abuse and the systemic failure that is the Department of Corrections in the state of Florida. And it's pretty good, too. It's kind of a romance-y novel, I guess, to a degree. It's about a taboo relationship between an inmate and a guard. But it also explores a lot of other stuff. And it's good. I'm very proud of it. It was written in 2014. After that, I got started on the Shoulders of Giants, which I consider to be my magnum opus. Sometimes, man, when you're writing these books, it's amazing how just, you're almost a conduit. You're like taking dictation from the universe, man. And all of your life experience, everything you see and hear and observe, everything that you've gone through, it all kind of gets filtered through you and comes out through the written word. And when you have the time to sit down every day and just kind of let it take over, it's almost magic, man. It's a really cool thing to experience. But yeah, man, I wrote that book and it won Writer's Digest Book Awards. There's a really cool story about that, but I'll probably deal with it later on. But yeah, man, it won that. I got a letter from Obama after I wrote it, so that was really cool. He didn't just write me out of the blue. I wrote him and he wrote me back, and it was probably a form letter, but who cares? The president wrote me, a prisoner in the Florida Department of Corrections, back, and it was a big moment in my life. My mama was definitely proud. Matter of fact, I was calling home getting football scores. I'm sweating tickets. I love these parlay tickets, so I'm sweating tickets, but we don't have phones. We don't have ESPN in the Florida Department of Corrections. You get 3, 5, 10, and maybe Channel 44 of the CW if you're lucky. Ain't no cable. So anyway, I was calling home getting scores, and the mailman knocks on my door and says, "Hey, I wanted to deliver this to you personally." And it was from the White House. So yeah, that was a big moment in my life. And after that, I wrote Sticks and Stones. And Sticks and Stones is about a guy who gets out of prison after serving 30 years. And he's kind of trying to find himself in a technological world that he really doesn't understand. With drone planes and smartphones and, YouTube and all this shit. So that's kind of what I'm going through right now, man. I was getting pummeled. I was getting inundated with pop-up ads on this phone. And I was really on the verge of just saying, you know what, fuck the phone, man. I'm not doing the phone thing. And I'm just going to write these books, work out, love my people and just live like that. But this phone is necessary because I want to give my books a chance. My books are my kids. And I love all 8 of those little crumb snatchers. They each are unique in their own way. And if you read them, you'll see why. I've never had somebody come back to me and say, dude, I couldn't read it, man. I'm sorry, man. They're gas, man. Trust me on this, man. And I'm not even taking credit because it's not me. All I did was provide the time and the discipline. And then as a conduit, the universal story moved through me and some magic happened, man. And it was beautiful to be a part of it, and you can be a part of it too, man. So, in fact, many of you are a part of it, like Karen Vasquez, who I just got a message from. She read my books while she was at Lowell or Gaston, I can't remember which one, but, she writes me on here from time to time and talks about the impact that these books had on her. And how cool is that? From nothing, from sitting in the joint, miserable, hopeless. People are flopping out on deuce all around me. Some bunks and ice, just, the abuse from guards, the constant lockdowns, the drones drops, the gang shit, all of that stuff is going on. And to block all that out, put my headphones in, try to write a book, sending these pages home 6 at a time to Mama. Mama's typing them up, sending them back to me. I'm editing them over the phone. Eventually after a year or two, we've got a relatively polished draft, which turns into a manuscript, which we then upload, and boom, voila. Where there was at first nothing, now there's something in the form of a book. And I believe the typing and the editing keeps my mama young. She's about to be 80 now. My main goal when I fell was to make it home to take care of her when she got older and needed me. Mission accomplished, because I'm here now. Again, I'm in my office, but I ain't gonna be here long, man. I'm about to be at the house, at my real house, man, with my guitars. And yeah, man, it's going down. So anyway, after I wrote that book, I started getting these messages, mostly from females who said, dude, you wrote my life. Your books, they kept me company through some really dark times. I really loved them, all of that, which is just supreme compliment, But I decided, since I had so many female readers that were incarcerated, that I would examine the female journey through, the Department of Corrections and kind of what they go through. I had always, sitting and holding cells since I was a kid, man, when the girls walk by, it's just a sad little parade of these women, and, life's beating a lot of them down. But I would see them in the dudes in the boom, oh man, she got a fat ass, or whatever they say. And, some girls, they play it up, they kind of, and some, they kind of just trying to get through there, but it just, I would wonder about their lives. Those girls going to court that would pass us in those holding tanks, and so, to be able to write a story about one of those girls was cool. And again, it's just grabbed from the ether. All I'm doing is really taking dictation, and I've had good friends. Marlo Knapp, Brittany Knapp immediately come to mind, but man, there's hundreds of others that have just schooled me on some of the intricacies, because when I started writing the Miranda Rights series, I didn't know. I figured, man, men and women, I know we have some anatomical differences, but for the most part, we're human beings on planet Earth, and doing time is doing time, whether you're a male or female. I still feel that way, by the way. But there are some differences in the prison experience for males and females, and I learned all about that when I was writing that book. I also learned about childbirth, which, as a writer, I think, man, I can research and do anything. Man, I'm so glad I didn't go at that arrogantly. I had Marcia Insminger, who is a midwife. I had my niece Amber Toledo, who's a master in childbirth. She's got 5 kids, man, and they're all beautiful. My mama, who gave birth to me. So, I had her experiences. My friend Renee, who told me that when her baby was born, Faith responded to the sound of her voice because it was something that she got used to in the womb. I thought that was a really cool story. Shonda, and her experiences. Shonda's had 3. Shonda's my girl. So all of these women that were kind of telling me, and taking all of that information, absorbing it and then distilling it. And I'm also paying attention to the news at the time, and the Miranda Wright series, kind of takes place in modern era. So, we had the Capitol riots going on. This little liberal girl obviously has some opinions about Donald Trump and everything that's going on in society. So anyway, man, I decided to tell the female experience. To me, that series is right there with On the Shoulders of Giants. I had a blast writing it. I was in the head of this female character for 5 years though. So I almost felt like a tranny, I'll be honest with you. So much thinking in Miranda's point of view. So I'm glad to have written it. I'm proud, and I'm also glad to be out of the point of view of a female character, and I can get back to writing about the male experiences, which is something I'm much more comfortable with. But anyway, yeah, those are my books. And then I also wrote Letters to the Universe, which is a story similar to the one I'm telling you right now. It just kind of deals with my journey of incarceration and writing and all of that stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you, face to face, finally, after all these years of writing these essays, that this is who has been writing them. So if you've read my books in prison, or you've read my books in England, which is really badass, or Montana, it's so cool getting some of these messages and and living this life, man. And I look forward to taking it to the next level right now. That's the plan. All right, y'all.